Today we're talking about something we all experience, but don't always understand: the complexity of our emotions. Think about it for a second. How often do you feel just one emotion at a time? Rarely, right? Emotions are layered, blended, and intense, and sometimes they feel like a swirling storm we can't quite name. Today, we'll break that storm down. We'll talk about how to understand these emotional blends, identify the patterns and triggers that set them off, and develop strategies to cope when they feel overwhelming. Along the way, I'll share some examples, and as always, we'll close with steps you can take to start understanding your emotions better today. Welcome to And That's Okay, the podcast where we explore the ups and downs of life and remind ourselves that whatever we're feeling, it's for a reason, and that's okay. I'm Lisa Renee Scott, your host and a passionate believer that every feeling matters and every step forward counts. Each week, we'll dive into real-life challenges, share relatable experiences, and offer actionable steps to help you navigate through it all. Before we jump in, I want to remind you that I am not a licensed doctor or a therapist. I'm here to share experiences and insights that worked for me and others like me. Let's start with this idea. Emotions are rarely simple. They don't show up alone and they don't play by the rules. They're messy, and that's okay. Think about a time when you felt happy. Was it just happiness, or was there something else mixed in? Maybe pride or relief, or even a little fear about what comes next. I remember a moment a few years ago. I had just finished a major project and I was so proud of the work I'd done, but at the same time I felt this weird sadness creeping in, like I didn't know what I would do next. It was a mixed feeling of sadness and actually some anxiety. I was happy and proud about the project, but also a little lost. It took me some time to understand that those emotions weren't contradicting each other. They were working together to tell me something. Blended emotions can be confusing, but recognizing them is the first step toward understanding yourself better. Here's another example. Picture this. You're starting a new job, and on one hand, you are super excited. It's the dream job. It's what you've worked hard for. It's what you've anticipated and dreamt about. It's on your vision board, and this is a big step forward. But on the other hand, you are nervous. What if you don't meet the expectations, then this vision that you have for yourself, or even the expectations of your boss? The excitement and nerves blend into this cocktail of anticipation that feels both thrilling and unsettling. And this emotional blending is a reminder that life isn't black and white. It's a beautiful, messy spectrum, and that's okay. So how do we start making sense of all this complexity? It begins with understanding. But here's the catch. You can't understand what you don't take time to notice. Let's break it down. First, you've got to name what you're feeling. Have you ever had one of those days where you're just off, but you can't quite put your finger on it? That's where naming your emotions can help. I was talking to one of my girlfriends recently who said something like, I've just been feeling bad all week. And when I asked what bad meant, she paused. Was it frustration, exhaustion, anxiety? When she finally said what she thought it was something like, I think I'm overwhelmed because I've been saying yes too much. It was like a light bulb went off for her. Naming the feeling gave her clarity. Here's how you can do this for yourself. Try keeping a feelings tracker. Write down what you're feeling throughout the day. Be specific. If you're frustrated, what's causing it? If you're happy, what's fueling that? And over time, you'll start to notice patterns. So for 1 week, I want you to commit to writing down your emotions as they happen. Be as specific as possible. Instead of I feel bad, try I feel frustrated because my friend canceled our plans and I was looking forward to seeing her. And at the end of the day, review your tracker. Circle or highlight the emotions that stood out the most often. Seeing them written down helps you recognize patterns and gives you clarity. Speaking of patterns, let's talk about triggers. Have you ever noticed how the same situation or people seem to spark certain emotions for you? That's not a coincidence. It's a pattern. I used to get this knot in my stomach every time I checked my email. It took me weeks to realize that it wasn't about the emails themselves. It was about the fear of the disappointment that I would get in an email. And once I identified that, I could start addressing it. Triggers are like road signs for our emotions. They tell you where to look. Here's a quick exercise. At the end of each day, write down the strongest emotion you felt and what triggered it. And over time, you'll start to see these connections that you didn't notice before. Okay, so now you've got a better understanding of your emotions and what triggers them, but what happens when those emotions feel too big? When they hit you like a tidal wave and you don't know how to respond? Let's talk about coping strategies. These aren't about ignoring your emotions. That's not what we do here. Or pushing them down and away. Nope, that doesn't happen either. They're about finding ways to process them without letting them take over. One thing that works for me is grounding myself physically. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I like to take a quick walk. There's also another exercise about holding an ice cube in your hand for 10 minutes and paying attention to all of the sensations and feelings that you have with that. Or you can do the 4x4 breathing exercise where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and do that 4 times. It's simple, but it works. Another strategy is reframing your thoughts. I've learned to do this quite well over the last couple of years. Have you ever caught yourself saying, I'm failing at everything? Is that true? Instead of spiraling, reframe it to, I'm struggling today, but that doesn't mean I'm failing. It will make a big difference. So where does all of this leave us? 1, emotions are rarely one thing. They're blended, layered, and beautifully messy. 2, naming your emotions help you understand them. 3, identifying patterns and triggers gives you insight into what's fueling those feelings. And 4, developing coping strategies allows you to navigate emotional intensity in healthy, constructive ways. Here's my challenge for you this week. Take one step toward understanding your emotions better. Whether it's tracking your feelings, noticing a trigger, or trying a new coping strategy, start small. And remember, it's okay to feel confused, overwhelmed, or unsure. Emotions are complex, but they're also what makes us beautifully human. And that's okay. Thanks for tuning into this episode of And That's Okay. I hope you found our discussion insightful and that you're leaving with some practical steps to apply in your own life. Remember that no matter what you're feeling or going through, you have feelings, and that's okay. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit from today's topic. And if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, Feelings First, be sure to do that as well, as this week we're going to have 2 bonus excerpts from today's episode. Until next week, take care and keep moving forward, one feeling, one step at a time.